start. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me your lunch break. I promise to make it exciting for you because I will be telling you the story about how I finished Marathon des Sables. Now, there were some points I wrote down as to how this, what I learned there, what I brought back with me to the Pasco, and what I left in the desert. So, because we are in finance and because I'm an auditor, if anyone asks me what my nutrition was for those 6 days, I will simply say this is it. So by regulation, we had to have 2,000 calories a day, and I broke it down into a main meal. The main meals I purchased from a Canadian company called Sly Foods. They make dried food, so it's basically dehydrated, and I would use that pot over there to heat water. Now, to give you an explanation about what is on that table, that's the bag I ran the race in. There's a sleeping bag inside. That is the mat I slept on because the ground was sand and rock. The booklets over there show the map that we ran on, but don't focus too much on that because there's a nice video for it. And the medal is there. And also, the water that I kept in the bag, in the case over there, is 8.5 kilograms. It's 16 bottles of half a kilogram each, 500 milliliters, and that's the weight that my bag started off with. So if you want, you can go and pick it up, and that's the weight that I was carrying on my back on day one. Now, there was a lot of learning on the job as you go, okay? How it started was we got to the desert after a 6-hour bus drive. We had our luggage with us and the bag we will be running the race in. We were asked to then decide what you want to keep and what you want to take away because you're going to utilize people's experience. I was fortunate enough when this race took place that I was placed in a tent with the elite athletes who finish in the top first and second place. So you could learn a lot from them when you're sleeping beside them. And they helped me with something very important, which again, I'm going to reference as learning curve, and that is how to fit everything inside your bag. Because when I was here, and before I went there, it was very daunting that you need to wake up, you have a sleeping bag, you need to put it back inside your bag, you need to fit all your food back inside the bag as well, and all of this before you get to the start line. So they taught me how to put the sleeping bag in. When I was here first, a friend of mine who hadn't done the race decided that maybe you should coil it up like a snake and put it inside the bag, but that took a long time. Now, I'm going to keep you entertained with the first thing, which is a video that I put together yesterday, because who better to tell you about how the race actually felt than A-Man when he was actually running the race. So, not the experienced A-Man you see in front of you now, but the green one who first decided to do 270 kilometers in the Sahara. So, here we go. That's when we enter it. How do I make it full screen? Have a nice welcome for us. This is the tent we were sleeping in.
Home for the next 8 days.
I was wrong. I was home for 2 days. Contrary to popular belief, the desert does have vegetation. 1,500 people showed up for the race. Play to win. Finish line on day one.
Drop. See all the way down there. Those are people running. You just have to go downhill with that car. Day two. Day two.
I love getting to the finish line just to hear that. It's a very steep hill, very steep mountain that you have to climb. I don't know what he's saying, but
absorb the feelings that you are going to experience in this incredible 100-kilometer journey. You're going to journey into a sunrise and an incredible high June in the next 40 hours. There are going to be times when you need to lean on the person next to you. Mentally and physically, you are going to be challenged, but you are about to have the experience of a lifetime. Just keep it relaxed. Focus on the next checkpoint. Embrace the cooler moments and the shade, and embrace the journey that will lead you to the finish line.
that's how dark it was when we started. It's upside down, I know, but that light you see behind me, that's everyone else who's starting the race. So that's people, procession of people. That's the hill that they spoke about.
I just finished my first official marathon where I've been on my feet. 42, 3 kilometers.
That's the rocky ground I spoke about. It
60
messed up my ankle.
kilometers. As you can see, those yellow places are where people are supposed to sleep. My legs hurt. What's wrong with me? Much better push through. We just passed checkpoint number 7, number 8. I've lost count. That's 70 kilometers. There's 30 kilometers left. Darkness. They're starting to fall. Now, we're going to use this. We'll see where we're going.
That's how dark it was. I couldn't figure out how to set the video, I'm sorry.
The pain was worth it for this view.
So what you saw summarized in 7 minutes took a total of 53 hours of running time over 7 calendar days. Before I left here, I was looking at the FASCO motto, which says, "Our strength is people." And I wanted to add a caveat to that, and not because of what I did, but our people are strong. Not for doing a race, but in our everyday life here at the FASCO. That was what kept clicking in my mind. Now, when I first started this race, I was completely green. These water bottles carried 750 and 850 milliliters of water. On day 1, I would fill them to the brim at every checkpoint. And what I came to realize later is that that's not the strategy you're supposed to adopt. Because as certain as we are of death and taxes, we are certain that there will be water at the next checkpoint. So by day 3, I started just carrying half the water and just refilling 1. Play to Win played a very important role in preparing me for this, because you get to share space with people that you don't necessarily know very well, but then you end up leaving as family. And that's exactly how I had felt during those 7 days, where the elites were very helpful in that they would gather the firewood by the time I got to the tent and have a fire running. And what we had to do is we would heat up water in those metal receptacles over there and pour that into your freeze-dried meal and have a proper meal for the day. Whilst I regale you with the stories, I will keep things interesting by also showing you pictures. Now, the reason that I showed you the video first was that so you'd know that I was running across the finish line. Reason being, this picture over here, which captures pain. Well, it goes to the right. So that would look like I'm walking across the finish line on day 4. Again, with the learning on the job, usually I would have my sleeping mat on the bottom of the bag, but on that day, I decided to put it on top of my shoulders under the bag straps, because even though it was probably around 6.5 to 7 kilograms, the weight of carrying that for 100 kilometers was killing my shoulders. So I changed at the last checkpoint, and the 100-kilometer day, which took 22 hours, we woke up at 3:30 a.m. and we had to be at the start line before 5 because we took off at 5. You saw how they kept us motivated, but that was the toughest thing I ever had to do. I always tell people I love running, but now I can tell people that I love running so much that I put 22 hours into doing it continuously. Every 7 kilometers there was a checkpoint, but then when you pass the 92nd kilometer, so the last checkpoint, it was completely dark. You only had little flags every 100 meters to see where you were going. And you know how they say silence is deafening? It is not. Loneliness is deafening. Because when you're just on the road for so many hours and you can't see to your left and to your right, this is what I had to use to see. And I wasn't trained in how to use this, because the light would just show you a circle ahead of you. And then every time you would cross that distance, you would find that your brain is lagging because the image you are seeing is changing so quickly. So we're used to seeing things around us, but then when you're running and you need a light to see where you're going, it was difficult. But yeah, when I got to the finish line that day, I sat on the side and just cried at having finished this. I'm trying to find how to make it into a slideshow. Okay. Oh, wow, that's easy too. So that's gathering the firewood. That's what I had to put into my bag. That's my food for the day. Now, we also had to tend to our own blisters. Now, by that, I mean, as you can imagine, by the end of the day, everyone's wearing gaiters to protect your foot from having sand come in. So by the end of the day, when you take off your shoe, you'll find that your toes have blisters. And the medical team there taught us how to tend to our own blisters. I have a picture that is probably graphic, so I will not show you. But all I will tell you is that it included a needle and a lot of gauze. We were given 5 liters of water a day at the end, and those 5 liters were supposed to, that's the infirmary where everyone is going to get their issues fixed. And they dealt with a lot of things from just blisters to more complex issues. Play to win, again. That became my pillow, actually. So I put my clothes inside a buff, and I covered it with rubber bands, then I put it into another buff, and I use it as a pillow. So, whereas we're used to sleeping in comfortable beds and having fluffy pillows, whether hard or soft, you really learn to shed all of those comforts when it's just you in the desert. There were 2 amazing people that did this race that deserve mention, and one of them was an amputee. His left leg was amputated, and he finished the race on a prosthetic leg. The other one was a 12-year-old named Leon. Oh, that's my swan. The 12-year-old named Leon had a incurable disease, but he had a team around him that supported him to finish the race. He was being pushed in a buggy, and I think there were close to 14 people around him who were there to make sure that he got to the finish line. Mental health was very important in this race because even though your legs carry you to the start line, it's your mind that has to get you to the end. Because make no mistake, I am not an elite athlete. I can tell you how long it takes elite athletes to finish this race. 22 hours total. Took me 53. On day 4, they were allowed 2 extra hours of rest because they were in the top 100. So whereas we started at 5 a.m., they got to sleep in and started at 7. And I can remember at the 21st kilometer, I'd been running for 3.5 hours. I look to my left and I see these people darting by with their bags on their backs, completing a distance of 21 kilometers in an hour and a half, which I could not do on flat ground without a bag on my back. So, staying in the same tent with these people and seeing that they eat the same food that we do, yet their body has adapted to the desert because it is not their first rodeo. The rock formations were amazing to look at. When it came to sleep, as I mentioned, you know the story of the 3 little bears? The comfortable bed, the semi-comfortable, and the most comfortable, or the least comfortable. You shed that quickly when you're forced to have to sleep in that condition. I remember before I left, I was trying to get used to sleeping on a mat, and I think maybe I did it for 1 hour at night. Then I was like, I can't do this. And I got up and got up to my bed. But when I was out in the desert and you had no other choice but to do this, you find yourself adapting really quickly. And what made it even more amazing was that we had a complete disconnect from the outside world. It's just 7 days of no phone because you need to charge it. So I only had a phone that uses a camera to take these pictures. And we had something called an emotion box, where at the end of the day, you would go into this tent and look at a camera and make a video for your family and your friends and your loved ones, and you would send them your emotions of the day. That was the only way. You could tell people what's happening, but you can't hear back from them. When I first started, the concept of only getting 5 liters of water a day seemed like it was a very alien concept. Like, how can I only survive on 5 liters? Once you get there, so on-the-job experience matters, because when I got there, I found out that 5 liters was more than enough. And you know how I told you that I relied on the elites to get the fire started? Well, there was a price to that. And the price was your leftover water from the day before. They would use that. And of course they would say, if you want, you can use ours too. But it was a sharing community. And that's also one thing that they don't tell you about this race. So from the very beginning, for safety purposes, they tell you that you need to have everything for yourself. You need to have your own fire starting equipment, you need to have a safety, the blanket, you need to have a compass, you need to have all this stuff for yourself. But then when you get there and you find that everyone is sharing everything, you start sharing as well. Now, not everyone did it. There was one person in our tent, I won't mention his name, but he wouldn't even share his Vaseline because he said, I only have enough for myself. On the last day, I had an extra pair of socks that I was preparing to wear. Oh, that's very good. Popped up right at the right time. So, one of the things that we got used to on the race is that we had these funny toe socks to help you prevent blisters. So it's like a glove, but for your toes. Very good in theory, but once your foot is swollen, very difficult to put on, very difficult to take off. So I had a pair of normal socks that I was planning to wear on the last day. We wake up before the race starts, and the guy who ends up finishing in first place tells me that his socks have torn and asks whether I have an extra pair. So of course, I gave him that pair, and he went on to win the race. So as far as I am concerned, I sponsored his socks. I'm just gonna switch back to day 4 because that was the race is always billed as make or break on day 4. The guy mentioned that we had 40 hours to complete it. By that, when you saw those yellow tents, you're allowed to sleep on the course once you get to the 7th, 8th, and 9th checkpoint, if you choose. You have 40 hours to complete the race. So if we started at 5 a.m., someone can do the math, you have until the next day to finish that race. So 48 hours would be, 24 hours would be until 5, so plus 16 hours from, so around maybe 3 p.m. My challenge to myself was that I wanted to finish the race in under a day. And by hook or by pain, because there was no crook, you couldn't cheat, there were volunteers everywhere, and there were even people running the race in the opposite direction to make sure that you were okay, and to ask if you need any medical assistance. For me, it was the fact that we had to finish this in 1 day. After 92 kilometers, that's it. It's 8 kilometers till the finish line, and the only thought that kept playing in my mind was I would look at my watch, I'd look at the distance, I'd calculate how long I have left, and I would keep telling myself, okay, so I'm finishing a kilometer in 13 minutes, there's still 8 kilometers to go, it's gonna take me 2.5 hours, it's 12 o'clock already, that means I'm gonna get there by 2:30. And then you're just in that downward spiral where you're like, it's taking too long, my legs hurt, I want to finish. But it got finished in the end. It was a very challenging experience, but I loved every minute of it. Now that I can say that I finished it. Now come day 5, when we had to run, my foot had started to swell, and it was very painful to run on. If it wasn't for 2 ladies who came up behind me at around 12 kilometers on the 42 kilometer day, and they noticed that I was limping, and they offered me Panadol. If they hadn't done that, I would have been the last to the finish line on that day. And they even told me their tent number. And they said, if you need any more, please feel free to pass by and we will give you more. And that's how I was able to finish the race on the last day. My shoe actually broke once I got to the finish line. When I was taking it off in the bus, the zipper broke. So I was like, thank God it was able to last me until that day, until that, like, finishing the race. Being an auditor and being into numbers, so I can tell you that I have a nice Excel sheet to show everyone who participated in this race from the day it started in 1986 until 2025. And those 4 water bottles represent me being the 4th Egyptian to do this race in those 40 years. What was very important was to have a strong why you were doing this race. And my why will have me traveling on Friday to go to Egypt, to have a meeting that can sort of decide whether or not this was worth it. But however that goes, it definitely was worth it as an experience, and to be around 1,500 other runners of different ages, different backgrounds. I was beaten by a lady who was 15 years my senior. And people crossed me on walking sticks who weighed way more than I did. There's no ideal form for someone who runs, there's no ideal form for doing sports. And everyone who takes part in MDS gets to walk out with that medal on the table over there, as well as bragging rights to say that I can stick to something because I made a plan for it. Was my plan of training in Canada correct? No, it was not. Because it did not prepare me for the ground that they have there. It wasn't hot. Everyone was assuming that the desert will be hot. It was not, because at every checkpoint they would offer us ice water that they would pour on the top of our heads and the back of our necks. And that was more than enough to keep you cool during the race. What they didn't tell me was the terrain. When I started the race, I was begging for hard ground and dreading soft sand. By the end of it, I switched my tune, and I was begging for soft sand and wincing when we had hard grounds. But one of the amazing things of that hard ground is that stone over there. I picked it up for my son because he loves collecting rocks. And also it looks kind of cool. So, Shayna, if you can have a look at that and pass it around. That is a 570 million year old fossil that was just lying on the ground. And as I was running and I'm looking down, I picked it up because it looked cool. And now I get to gift my son something that is monumentally worth a lot more than the medal. But again, one of the nicest things in the race is that even though I was looking on the ground to pick up stones for my son, people that were coming up behind me kept asking me if I was okay. And that's also one of the lessons that we have here at the fast where we always check in on each other.
And how did you find out that information about the rock?
Oh, AI. I took a picture of it after I got to the hotel. I was like, tell me more about this and what it is. So and there was more. Like I found 4 other pieces that I thought would be cool, and they were all around 80 million to 570 million years old. So there is one 5-minute video that I want to show you, which captures the distance. So, like I said, auditor, data. Garmin watches are great for capturing your route, but then I added an extra application to that, which does a very nice 3D run for you. So you will be able to see exactly what the terrain looked like as I was running through it. And that is video number 2. That's how we started the day. That's how we started the day. They sent us that voice clip, "Good morning, bivouac." That's how we started our days. And down here you can see the kilometers. I hope it's clear. And the time. So it's like real time. You can see the distance, the day, and the time.
Are the peaks like elevation?
Yes. And this application is free, by the way. Anyone can use it. If you run, you just connect your Garmin watch to it, and it will give you the same video. That was day 1. Day 2. Days we would start in one place and then end up in another. So they would dismantle the tents and take them to the new campsites. This was the short day of just 29. They got us used to saying just a lot. Meetings will really make a difference. And this is day 4. Not sure if you can tell, but I'm making a classic mistake of starting too fast. That's when that rocket shows up, it means that's your fastest kilometer. So I was always shooting off way too fast. And also that this shows the elevation. So this would have been the highest point at the race. I was very happy that I finished it in 22 hours, and I'll tell you why after. Reason I was happy I finished that long day in 22 hours was that the next day there was a very bad sandstorm that had people blown off course. So now I will invite any questions anyone might have about this, and the floor is yours. Todd?
How, like when you're running at night, you say you can only see just in front of you, like, how do you know you're going in the right direction?
They had flags that were supposed to be set out every 100 meters, but when you're on the course, you come to find that those flags were actually just straws that are popping out of the ground that you would see and know that this is the direction that you have to go in. Now, sometimes you'd be running with the flags to your right, sometimes you'd be running with the flags to your left, so I didn't know how to orient myself. And there were 2 times in that last 8 kilometers where I got lost and just waited by a flag for someone to come up behind me so I can follow. That map that they gave us, this one, this map has a compass at the top, and if you really got lost, you could use it to figure out how to get to where you need to go. And this is a cheat sheet that a friend of mine who did this race before had given me. It has valuable information like you need to use wet wipes, get a buff, don't skip the finish line T, increase speed a bit on solid terrain. Now, even though he had experience, we had different ideas about how to do the race. He was telling me that you should change your socks at the checkpoints, whereas I just wanted to finish the race faster. So I didn't stop at the checkpoints to change my socks. People have experience, but then once you're doing it yourself, you figure out that you have to do it your own way.
Did you ever thought of quitting during this phase?
Good question. On the 100-kilometer day, I thought that I'd had enough. But did I want to quit? No. Because the finance part of me was like, I paid this much for the race, and if I get to go home without having a medal show for it, and everyone that I told that I was going to do the race, I wouldn't be able to tell them that, oh, I decided to quit. But for safety's sake, they did give each of us a GPS tracker on our bag, and if ever you were feeling that you weren't okay or you needed medical assistance, you just press a button and they would come and help you out. So having that as a the safety net was good. So it made me know that I'm not going to stop. Kelly?
Like if you're going a lot slower, you're losing time. Can you finish it even if you're like a day later, or like how?
No. So in that booklet that Cameron has, it has the start time for every day and the cutoff time. So if you don't make it to the finish line before the cutoff time, then you're disqualified.
For the whole race?
For the whole race.
How
Yes.
many people finish? Start at 1500.
Started at 1500, 1,350 finished. So 1,500 signed up, 1,450 showed up. So 50 people signed up but didn't make it. And then from that 1,450, only 1,350 finished. So about 100 or so had dropped out. One of them was in my tent. One of the brothers who usually finish the race first, second place, third brother, he had a disc problem. So he decided that he wasn't going to continue after day one.
I have to go.
Thank you so much for Jerry. Thank you.
Good talk. Very nice.
Did you run into any like reptiles or wildlife and anybody that bit by a snake?
I saw 2 reptiles on the route. Thank you. Come on, thank you.
Such inspirational motivation stuff.
Thank you so much.
As humans, when our backs are to the wall, that's when the best of a human comes up.
Thank you. I saw 2 lizards, and I saw a dead animal, and lots of camels, but nothing else. Now, when my friend did this race, he had to carry a anti-venom kit. It wasn't part of our necessary kit this year. And when I asked them, how did you make sure that there are no snakes? Their response was, well, there are mice in the desert, which means that there are no predators. And I said, well, what if these mice are just, they're the city mouse visiting country mouse? How do you know? I did see a lot of holes, but I never knew what was inside. But as we were running, didn't run into any snakes.
When you were sleeping?
Yeah.
When we were sleeping, we would, Rachel, when we were sleeping, we just assumed that if anything happens, you're in civilization, there's people around, there's a medical place close by, so nothing bad will happen. They did have yoga on the first 2 days for people to stretch, but then on the 4th day, where we ended up in that really rocky area, it was not possible to do yoga because all they had on the ground was carpet. And that's why you had to have a sleeping bag and a sleeping mat, if you so choose. Some people had inflatable mats, inflatable sleeping mats. Some people had solar panels, so they can charge their phones. But then that's an extra added weight that you have to carry.
Were there severe fluctuations in temperature? Because I hear in the desert, nighttime is really.
At night, okay, very good question. Because on day 1, the first night that we slept in the desert, our tent actually collapsed on top of us. And that is because not me, I didn't do anything. The more experienced people were removing the poles to reduce the airflow because the air was so cold at night. But then the air was so strong that it ended up moving the tent and the tent fell. So it was very windy and cold at night, but not cold to the point that you would be chilly. It's just, it's that nice cold that helps you to go to sleep. And one thing that I loved doing was waking up in the middle of the night and just going to look at the stars. Because I can't explain how beautiful it was. Because you're out in the middle of nowhere where no other people are, so there's no light pollution, and you just look up and what you see is phenomenal. Kelly, you had a question?
I know it's just windy. Is it windy every day during the day? Usually?
No, it wasn't. Like the only time it was badly windy was on day 6 when we were going towards the finish line, and at night.
Oh.
But throughout the route was nice.
I was just looking at the flags, but those were at the finish points.
Yes, It was windy, but then I think when we hid in our tents, we weren't really exposed to the wind. So it was just eat, sleep, run, repeat. And by the time you get to the finish line, you go, you get your food, and then you're passed out until the next day. Okay.
Yeah, it just seems to me like a life-changing experience. Did you like have had like realizations or anything like that to carry into your life?
Yes, a lot of the time, like I was writing notes to myself on my phone about like things that I wanted differently. Now I see challenges differently because I just keep thinking, well, if I know I have enough to do such things, then what else am I capable of? And that's what everyone should be able to tell themselves. Like, we see a lot of challenges in our days, and those challenges shape us. This was a physical challenge, but then we all also have mental challenges. We have work fatigue, we have burnout, we have so many things that we go through. And persevering to pass that makes us all winners in the end. For me, it was a physical requirement. Okay, you just need to run. But then you can apply that to anything in life, any problem that you face, and that's what I get to look at. Now, they made this race special in that it's the 40th edition. Usually the race is just 250. But because it was the 40th edition, they made it 270. And they made the long day, which used to be just 85, 100. So now, whenever I look at challenges, I say it's just this or just that.
Is that a yearly?
Yes, it happens every year.
Every year? Do you,
Every year, at the beginning of April.
Do you think you might entertain it again summertime?
Maybe in 10 years' time. When they have their other anniversary, because right now, the 27 is going to be 250. So I'm like, I've done 270, I don't know.
Yeah.
I get to brag like that now, but.
Yeah.
Was like you had your spreadsheet up with all the food that you eat and everything. Was that like, is there a maximum amount of food you can?
No,
Or,
you can carry whatever, you can have 4,000 calories a day if you want. But that's just stuff you have to carry on your back. So when we were buying the food, I was being very mindful of weight and caloric content. So I'll tell you this, if you go to Costco, they have protein sticks, beef protein sticks. Okay, there's 32 a bag. 50 grams in weight, no, 15 grams, 50 grams in weight. I have the weight written down on that sheet. 15 grams of protein. And numerically, I will tell you that after this race, my body fat percentage dropped by 5%, and my muscle mass increased because of those protein sticks. And now, I was treating myself with those protein sticks where I would be like, okay, it's yay big, and I would be like, okay, after every kilometer, I'll take a bite of this protein stick, which now, if you have at your desk, you'll have like 3 before you realize that you're eating them. So I was taking a bite every kilometer, because I was like, this is going to last me until the next checkpoint. And also the Costco trail mix was amazing. And this is why I can tell you that AI will never replace humans, because I used AI for my preparation, and it told me that you should eat 8 pieces of trail mix. And I was like, would a raisin be considered a piece? Would half a peanut be considered a piece? I was eating it by the handful every kilometer, just to keep track of the time as I was running. Let's see if there's any questions. Oh, voice is breaking. No sound. Oops. That was at 12. Oh. Any other questions? Thoughts?
Maybe just, you mentioned you cut your sleeping bag in half. What's the story there?
Oh, the sleeping mat. So when I showed up with it, it's very long. And everyone who was at the race told me that you only need to take care of your back. Your legs don't need to be cushioned. So the plan was to cut it in half anyway. And also because it would cause a drag when you're running if it's too big. So my friend didn't have a sleeping mat, so we decided that we're gonna cut it in half, and he ended up throwing his anyway after day 4. He threw it away, whereas I kept mine, and I was like, this is going to be a good memory to hold on to, so I'm keeping it for memory's sake. Yeah, and the sleeping bag is inside that bag, so I wanted people to see how it spreads out and how to put it back, because what they ended up telling me is that you're supposed to, when you wake up, you take everything out of your bag, you put the bottom of your sleeping bag in first, then you stuff all your things, pull up the zippers, and then you start stuffing the top in, and then you close it. So whereas my friend was telling me you should twist it and then snake it, that would take too much time. So that's the most important thing I learned in the race, and it's good that I learned from day 1, because otherwise I would have been wasting too much time on getting my bag ready. And you learn a lot about how to go to the bathroom in the desert. You can go to Dollarama and you find those wet wipes. One wet wipe was enough for 1 bathroom visit. So
What do they do with the waste?
they collected it. They had like a certain bins for
It's like
human waste, yes, and then they would a truck would come and take it every year. Yeah, it was. Fortunately, the bathrooms were far, slightly from where we sat, and I lost my slippers on day 4 when we got to the rocky terrain, and then it just meant that you couldn't really walk around much because it was like you had blisters on your feet. The ground was rocky, and we just spent the majority of day 5 with our legs elevated, hiding in tents because the sand was just terrible. It was a bad sandstorm on that day. And then one of the nicest things I remember seeing is that on the long day, everyone was out by the finish line for the last couple who were coming to the finish line before the cutoff time. And they got like a guard of honor, and the lady was in tears. It was nice to be part of that.
Is there a particular highlight from the whole experience for you, or just the whole thing, basically?
The highlight would be the friends I made on that day. So when I gave my socks to the guy, first place finisher, I got his number because I was like, when we get back to civilization, let's meet up, let's go out. And when I got to the hotel, they had misplaced my luggage. So when I said on day 1, they took our luggage away. So I put my phone, my wallet, my passport I had to keep with me, but my phone, my wallet, in my carry-on, and they misplaced that. And of course they're all tired and they're worn out, and I'm traveling the very next day, so I need to find my carry-on. I was able to call up my friend by borrowing phones from people, saving his number and giving him a call and say, hey, I'm here, help. And he actually came to my hotel to pick me up so we can go and find my carry-on. Now the distance was like 900 meters between the hotels. But 900 meters after running so much, I couldn't even walk to the door of the hotel room I was in. That would be, it's the connections that you make with the people that made the race so worthwhile. And seeing where everyone is coming from, all the different backgrounds, all their different body types. Everyone was there for a reason. People who had gone through loss, people who were trying to find themselves. And I think by the end, everyone was able to find a better version of themselves. Like the way I see it is 1,500 cannibals went to the deserts who ended up cannibalizing themselves to become a better version of themselves.
And what did you look most forward to coming home?
A bath, plumbing,
Yeah.
cold water, because there was, I didn't have anything cold for 7 days. So now when I drink cold water, I savor it in a way that is like, I know what it's like to just drink hot water or room temperature water for 7 days. No, I enjoy cold things now. But not cold winters.
No.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
I tell myself I'm too tired.
I was just getting some sitting position.
That is heavy. Yeah.
And he ran,
You have to carry that.
the first day he ran 6 minutes, 1 kilometer. I saw that. With that on. That was quick. I can't even run, 6 minutes. Yeah, 1 kilometer.
Let alone.
Yeah.
No wonder.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. That's what I was asking. It's like, that's chicken broth.
No, that's his electrolytes
Yeah.
for the day. He just eats it, yeah.
And this goes in.
So that's your sleep. Oh, wow.
That takes it.
Yeah.
And that you have to carry. I get to take a cookie.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Hey,
That
David.
is amazing. Oh. Starting to go through
Yes.
So is that good too?
Yes, I broke it down by like day.
Yeah.
So on that day there are photos and videos, and then that video was just like everything. I combined them to see what's the best that I can.
Oh,
Sure.
okay. Yeah, I was going through, so once I think sort it so I see the actual little pictures, and then once you pick one, and then I can click and go through the whole thing. Yeah, it's been pretty amazing. I haven't gone through all of it yet though. Thank you for sharing that.
Here, that's
That is so cool.
I have to tell everyone the story in person because the audio was not working.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, dear me. Is it